Good afternoon. I want to welcome those of you who are joining us today for our webinar on our graduate taught master's programs. My name is Aoife Ryan and I'm part of the marketing and events team in the Sutherland School of Law. Joining me today, I have a few of my colleagues. We have Associate Professor Brian Hutchinson. Brian is part of ours, head of our careers department in the school. We have Associate Professor Suzanne Egan. Suzanne is a lecturer of human rights and international human rights in the School of Law. Also joining me is Justine McCann. She is the Deputy Director of our Programme Office. Justine's here to help with all of the questions you might have. I know some of you may have been in touch with Justine already regarding applications. I will ask if any of you have questions, just to submit them using the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. We'll hold the questions till the end of our session, as my colleagues may answer some of the questions along the way. For your best viewing experience today, I would advise you toggle to the speaker view, and this will just allow you to see who's currently speaking. For final housekeeping, I'd like to just inform you that our session is being recorded. If anybody would like to review the topics at the end or after this has finished, you'll be able to find it on our UCD Sutherland School of Law YouTube page. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Brian, who's going to speak to us about our courses and what we have available. Brian, over to you.
Thanks very much, Aoife, and hello everyone. So I'm going to say a little bit about the programs which we offer at graduate level in the UCD Sutherland School of Law, and I'll say a little bit about the Sutherland School of Law as well. Now, the first point of note is that we're talking about graduate programs at this point. For those of you who are tuning in from across the Atlantic, law is an undergraduate discipline for us in Ireland and in most of the universities in Europe. So when we are talking about law at a graduate level, we're talking about taking your law studies to the next level, really. So going beyond the basic knowledge and basic legal skills that one would acquire for a foundation law degree, and typically specializing. So in the UCD Sutherland School of Law, we have 9 taught programs, 7 of which at least are specialist programs in particular areas. The particular areas would be intellectual property and information technology, European law and public affairs, criminology and criminal justice, international human rights, international commercial law, international law and business, and criminology and criminal justice. And in all of these programs, obviously, as the titles suggest, there would be a specialist focus on the subject matter. That doesn't mean that it's exclusively specialist. There is still a scope to pick up other elective or optional modules as part of the program. The structure in all of these is typically that there would be 2/3 of the program delivered and received by teaching, by teaching methods, typically by class, although nowadays, of course, much of that may take place online. And at least 1/3 of the program then comprises a research dissertation. And of course, that should bring across to you the idea that the focus really of developing, or as I've said earlier on, taking your law studies to the next level with a master's degree involves developing not only your knowledge then, but through the research module, developing your research skills, developing and honing your critical analysis, developing your ability to write and to think and to deliver legal information, often complex information, in an efficient way. And also, of course, to contribute to the field of legal learning as well. So your work may go on to be the foundation of work done by others at a later stage. All of this takes place within an academic year, typically over the 3 semesters from September to the following September, really, with the dissertation part typically taking place over the summer months in the latter stages of the program. But my colleague Justine will say a little bit more about the timing of each of these programs in a moment. Now, I said that 7 of these 9 programs are specialist. So you'll gather that at least 2 others are more general, and I'll talk about those briefly. So we have a general LLM, General Masters in Law, And the general Masters in Law allows you to pick from any of the subjects which are available at graduate level across any of the programs. And if you like, to mix and match for your own interest. The LLM, the general LLM has all of the, if you like, the attributes in terms of knowledge acquisition and skills acquisition and development that the other programs have. It's just that it isn't specializing in any one particular area. The final program that I mentioned is slightly different to the others. And it is what we call the MCL. So all of the others are LLMs, or in a moment MSCs, as I'll explain. But the MCL is an opportunity for students who want to acquire, if you like, the foundation law knowledge, but haven't done a law degree before. So very often students will do the MCL not to take their legal studies to the next level, but to acquire legal studies in the first place, but at a graduate grown-up sort of level, if you know what I mean. So what we do is over the course of 2 years, the MCL is a 2-year program, we induct students, we give them in fact the same level of core legal knowledge that we would give the undergraduate students towards a classic law degree. But also, of course, in seminars and tutorials, we explore those topics, perhaps at a more detailed level. And there's some scope, in fact, in the MCL for students to take elective subjects from the diet that is available on the LLM programs as well. So it's for students who already have a degree, but not in a law discipline, who want to acquire the foundation legal skills in order ultimately perhaps to go on to meet the qualification requirements for the bar or for solicitors in Ireland or elsewhere. So that's a brief overview of our programs. I could add a 10th, which would be the LLM by research. And sometimes students decide that they have a particular research topic that they'd like to engage in, perhaps specialize, something that isn't on our list of specialist degrees. And again, working with a supervisor, largely, of course, working heavily by themselves, but with substantial involvement from their supervisor in terms of guidance. The student will produce a major thesis, critically analyzing and perhaps exploring a particular area and adding to the legal knowledge in that area. So to recap, 10 programs in all, I guess, if you include the LLM by research. 7 of them specializing in particular areas. 2 of them are general. One is the general LLM, the other is the MCL. The MCL is the one that you might take if you wanted to acquire foundation legal knowledge, but at a higher level than perhaps a basic law degree. And the LLM in general, and the LLMs generally are ones that you would take to specialize and develop upon your legal expertise already. People sometimes ask whether the LLM is the route you should take if you are a foreign qualified lawyer already in order to acquire access to the Irish bar or perhaps to the English bar, etc. And I would say that indeed these degrees can be valuable for that. They're not essential, but of course they do give you a specialism that perhaps is a string to your bow that might make you more attractive to recruiters in the legal market elsewhere. But if it was the case that you didn't have a foundation law degree, or perhaps you wanted to gather the Irish legal foundation for the Irish law exams for the bar or for the solicitor's profession, I think the MCL is the one you'd probably go for. So what would be the reason you would choose to come to UCD? Well, obviously, in the specialist areas, the specialists are really at the top of their field. So UCD is a world-class institution. UCD Law School has been ranked #1 in Ireland on numerous occasions and has varied between top 50 and top 75 in the world. It was top 50 in 2019. Consistently over the last number of years. We have the largest professional full-time academic law faculty in Ireland, and of course size isn't everything. We are prouder of our reputation, and also we're prouder of the achievements of our students, I would think, and the trajectory that our students go on than just our size. And in terms of trajectory, we tend to see a lot of our graduates going on to remarkable things. That isn't what everybody desires necessarily, but we certainly give them the opportunity to do that. And we see them going on to a range of professions afterwards. And talking about a range of professions, perhaps that would allow me to conclude with just an observation I promised I would make earlier. And two of our programs are classed as MSCs, that's Masters in Science, rather than LLMs. And the reason they are classed as MSc rather than LLM is that the students entering those programs do not have to have law degrees. They can, in which case they will get an LLM. But if they do not have a law degree, but they have a degree in the cognate discipline, for example, in business when it comes to the MSc in International Law and Business, or perhaps in sociology or criminology when it comes to the MSc in Criminology and Criminal Justice. And those students can still participate and take part in the programs at the same level and to the same degree that the law students will be. And the degree is, as I say, categorized slightly different. It's an MSc rather than an LLM, but the basic elements of the program are just the same. So I hope with that I've given you a brief sense or flavor of the variety of graduate programs available in the Sutherland School of Law. In normal circumstances, when we're not in lockdown, the UCD Sutherland School of Law is a very vibrant place. It's a dedicated, purpose-built law school with a sort of a rhythm and a heart to it. Everybody passes through the atrium space. In times of COVID-19, we are working out how we can best maintain the spirit and the ethos and the atmosphere of the law school while keeping everybody safe. But rest assured, we're doing our best on that front. So I hope this will be of interest, and I remain online to take questions later on. And I'll hand you back now to Aoife. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. That was very informative. I'm next going to hand you over to Associate Professor Suzanne Egan. Thank you very much for joining us today, Suzanne, and I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks very much, Aoife. Hello, everyone, and thanks again for joining us today on the seminar. And I've been asked to say a few words on our LLM in human rights law, on international human rights, to give you a flavour of what it's like to do that specific master's course, but also, I suppose, to give you an idea of the level of specialism that we try to offer across all our different LLM offerings. So the chief distinctive feature, I suppose, of the LLM in international human rights is that it is an interdisciplinary degree program. And the reason for that is that if people have already taken international human rights law before in their undergraduate, needless to say, you don't have to have taken it in your undergraduate degree in order to pursue a master's here with us in UCD. But if you have, you'll be aware that generally one has the ability at undergraduate level, I suppose, to grasp what the international human rights framework is all about, and perhaps also consider how particular human rights bodies have interpreted particular rights. At the LLM, in the LLM program that we offer, we try to push beyond that, a level of fundamental knowledge, and to team up by teaming up with the School of Politics and International Relations at UCD. We aim to give our students much more in-depth knowledge, not just of the substantive outputs of international human rights bodies, but also how they operate, why they operate, and what factors make them operate in particular ways. So we look at various United Nations, international human rights bodies, as well as regional courts and tribunals, of course, the European Court of Human Rights being central to that. So the program, therefore, is very much aimed through this cooperation with the School of Politics at equipping students with in-depth knowledge and understanding of really the intersections between law, politics, and international relations that come into play in the field of human rights. Now, the design of the program facilitates that by enabling students to take 2 compulsory modules in the law school, in international human rights law, which is an in-depth study of the field of international human rights, and also one on the law of the European Convention on Human Rights specifically, as well as 2 further compulsory modules with the School of Politics, one on the political theory of human rights and the other on the politics of human rights. And thereafter, students can choose 2 further optional modules from the wide range of human rights related modules that we offer here in the law school. And these include modules, for example, on privacy, data protection, immigration and asylum law, NGO governance, climate justice, criminal justice, and so on. And as Brian has already said, the school does have a significant cohort of staff who are immersed in research and indeed some policy work and outreach in the field of human rights. And all of us are teaching on the programme. Our staff, for example, our human rights academic staff, have engaged in major research projects in a wide range of policy areas, advising government and international human rights bodies on areas spanning the full range of international human rights law, from asylum law and practice, EU and fundamental rights, to the law of privacy in Ireland. So you will be in good hands if you come to take the LLM with us. Teaching on the programme, I should say, is completely interactive. The aim here is to develop students' oral, presentation and analytical skills. So these are the key attributes for professional learning and development, and they're very much in demand for advocacy work in the field of human rights. So we orient our teaching around that ideal. And likewise, there's a range of assessments that are deployed in the various modules, from individual projects, group projects, presentations, end of trimester exams, and so on. Just to give you an example, in my own module, I teach the module on international human rights law. Students, one of the assessments techniques I use is to ask students to write a blog post on a particular area of interest to them that we have covered in the course. And then at the end of the semester, we devote one class to students discussing their various blogs, presenting what they have learned through research for their blogs, and enabling them to ask each other questions. And in this way, learn from each other in a very interactive way. It also is aimed at enabling students to engage in some creative writing that will also hopefully be of practical help insofar as they may be able to go on and publish those blogs. So in addition then to these 60 credits which students will earn from their modules, the programme then also requires students to write a dissertation, which is worth the remaining 30 credits for the programme. And Brian has already spoken a little bit about the dissertation, and I'll maybe just say a few further words about the dissertation. This is an opportunity for students to write a written piece of between 12 to 15,000 words. So in other words, a longer piece of work in essence than you may have already done at undergraduate level. And it really does give students then the chance to engage in original research and writing on a topic of their choice, and really then to fine-tune their analytical and writing skills. And these again are core attributes for all our programs. And in order to give students the confidence to undertake this challenge, the school does run a dedicated dissertation module. And in this module, students are introduced to the wide range of research and design modules, methods and methodologies on which they can draw then to write their own dissertation. And the school then, as Marianne has already explained, assigns each student with a member of academic staff who will act as an advisor for the dissertation project. And the student then will meet with their advisor on a one-to-one basis for a number of times and ask for support. And it's an encouraging atmosphere to provide support and guidance on the writing process. So that's a great benefit, I think, of all our master's programs, and in particular in the field of human rights. I can speak specifically to that. I have advised on a hugely broad range of dissertation topics this year. For example, advising students who are writing dissertations on areas as diverse as human trafficking, to the interplay between businesses and human rights, and also on poverty related issues. So there is a wide, obviously the sky is the limit in terms of the types of topics that students can undertake in this respect. So to finish then, one question that is often asked is, what kind of careers can students hope to embark on having engaged with the LLM program at UCD? Well, our graduates, Brian spoke about our pride in our graduates across the board, but in human rights, I can vouch for the fact that many graduates have gone on to work in fascinating areas, a variety of fields, including obviously in the practice of law, but also many have gone on to work in the policy field, in government departments, as well as international, national organizations, and also non-governmental organizations. So these are the careers that we hope to prepare students for, and that is one of our aims in designing the program. If you have any further questions about this specific LLM, I'm very, very happy to answer them at the end of the webinar. Thank you. I'll hand you back to Aoife now.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. That was very informative. A lot of hot topics in there that are in the news at the moment. So it's very interesting to hear what students can learn through your LLM. I'm going to hand over to Justine McCann now. She's our Deputy Director of the Programme Office. And Justine is going to give you a bit more information about the applications process, some scholarships, and also has a brief announcement from the university on the current COVID situation and our teaching. Thanks very much, Justine. Over to you.
Thanks, Aoife. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to talk you through some of the requirements for the master's programmes, lead on to scholarships, and perhaps just mention a few other details that might be of interest to you. So I'm going to start with the LLM. For the LLM, we would look for a 2-1 upper second class honour in a law degree, but we would also accept a degree where law is a major component, for example, business and law. Also, some students who haven't done a law degree but may be interested in the LLM, if you have, for example, a BA degree and you have a 2-1 in that and you've continued on to study the graduate diploma in law, it's a 60 credit programme where you have also studied all the required law modules such as contract, tort, company, criminal, etc. You can also apply straight for the LLM, and if you get a 2-1 in your graduate diploma, you'll be offered a place as well. I'd also like to mention, which is important, we would often have interest from solicitors and barristers, and indeed even people with a PhD in a related discipline. Well, all of these people are very, very welcome to apply and would more than likely be offered a place due to their very, very vast experience in law or a very close discipline to law. I'll move on now to the MSc in International Law and Business. For this degree, some students will have law, some will have business, some will have law and business. And as Brian mentioned earlier, we accept people with either a law or a business degree, but obviously ideally you might have just studied some of the other discipline in your degree. So if you've done law, you may have done a business module in there, maybe commercial law, that's fine. In business, you'll probably have done maybe business law or some contract law in there. So that's perfect. We also have our MSc in criminology. And again, we have an LLM in criminology. And again, Brian mentioned earlier, the MSc is for those of you from a non-law background, but if possible, related, it doesn't have to be, but related to criminology. So we'd get people with a BA in criminology, we'd get people with social science, philosophy, English, history, that type of background, and all seem to do well and enjoy the MSc criminology. It appeals to them. We also, what I want to say to you is also with criminology can be of great interest to some people who wouldn't necessarily have a degree, could be Gardaí or worked in the prison area, and they may just not have the honours degree. So what we do allow is we have a professional diploma in law. It's a 30 credit module where you study 3 master's modules in criminology area. And if you get a 2-1 in this, you can continue on to the MSc in criminology. Our director of criminology would actually look at these applications. But again, it's for people with very significant experience, but just don't have that honours degree and the 2-1. So we have had a couple of people do that, and it seems to have worked very well. They went on to do the MSc in criminology. And just to bear in mind, you do have to do the full 90 credits of the programme. The last degree I will talk to you about is the MCL and the Masters in Common Law, very popular with the non-law graduates. We would traditionally get people from all backgrounds. I suppose the favourites would be the BA, BCom, etc. We would get a lot of people who are very interested in getting a law degree as such, and they would do the Masters in Common Law. And then some, not all, may decide to continue on in the area of law and go on to study to be a solicitor or barrister. And just to bear in mind that the MCL is accredited with King's Inns. It's 2 years full time. I just want to go back to something I was talking about there. I mentioned with the MSc Criminology, you can do the professional diploma in criminology modules if you don't have your 2-1 or you don't have your honours degree in we'll say a related area. Well, the same for the LLM. I'd mentioned the people with a graduate diploma would be welcome, but we also would often have people who have a 2-2 in their law degree and they really want to do the LLM. So what we have allowed, and we again have had a number of people do this, our professional diploma in law, again, where they do 3 law modules and at master's level. And after doing those law modules, if they get the 2-1 in the professional diploma, they then can continue on to the master's. Now, as we have a September and January intake, this can work very well because you can do the professional diploma, we'll say September to December, apply for the LLM while you're doing it. And then in January, once we see provisional results, we give you an offer for the LLM once you have the 2-1. So I just thought that would be important because it is a question that comes up a lot, people concerned, and probably some people get the 2-1 and maybe don't realise that that's an alternative route for them. Now, another thing I wanted to mention to you, just for anybody listening who doesn't have English language as their first language, you know, there are English language requirements, and in IELTS we look for 6.5 and 6.5 in reading and writing, and 6 or above in speaking and listening. And obviously some people go for TOEFL as well instead of that. Then we also have scholarships. So obviously some of you would be very interested. For the LLM, we have the James Healy, which is €5,000 plus your fees paid, EU fees that is. We also offer a number of bursaries in the MCL, MSc, and also for the LLM, they'd be €4,000, and we'd offer between 4 and 6 of these a year as well. And also any students coming from UCD who've done BCL or BBL continuing on to do the LLM or indeed the MSc, they can also get a scholarship of €3,000. It's a stage scholarship. Now, all of these are GPA dependent. So what we do is everyone who's applied is included, and the applications with the highest GPA to date, we have a closing date. We've 10th of June. It's normally 31st of May. We put it in as the 10th of June this year. Anyone who's applied before that date, we get the GPAs. People with the highest GPAs will be considered. And then the Dean and Associate Dean will make the final decision, and we write out to people to let them know if they've been successful. So just to note, all of this information is on our website. Just go into ucd.ie/law and you can go in further into study and graduate programs and you can read all about this. Now, something that's not everyone's interested in this, but some people are. In the LLM program, there's an opportunity to go on an exchange in the spring semester or trimester, and to universities such as Mannheim and Maastricht. Students, when they come in at the end of September, early October, will be invited to apply to go on this exchange, and you do get a Master of Comparative and International and European Law at the end of that, on top of obviously your LLM. Also, and you'll see this in our website, University of Western Australia, we have a 1+1 program. So you do your LLM with us and you can apply to them to do an LLM with them. They look for a 2-1 basically in our LLM for you to be invited in. And they do mention that they have a number of scholarships that people can apply for. So these are just some extra niceties, if you like, to the programs. With the UWA one, it also includes the MSc in Criminology and International Law and Business, not the MCL. Just to mention a little bit, we've a January and September start to all our programs except for the MCL, because the MCL is 2 years full-time, and again, core modules, some of them you must do in the autumn term to continue on and take the other modules in spring term. So that would be the reason there. I just wanted to mention a little bit about careers, in that normally in October, and I don't know what will happen this year, we have a law careers fair where many of the law firms will come in and students can go and meet them and perhaps have an opportunity to apply for internships if that's available at that time. Also, we invite law firms in to speak to our students on a weekly basis, or maybe not just every week, but students are invited to attend seminars or workshops that are run by the law firms, and in some cases they will be talking about internships and explain how you can apply for those. And also for those interested in the criminology area and who may not have a law degree or really be interested in necessarily going on to law, we do often try and bring in some of the NGOs, people from those areas, maybe to give a talk as well. So that would be all I have to say now on those areas. You can ask some questions at the end. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read, I've been asked to read the statements. I'm going to read this to you now from UCD on COVID. And again, please ask me any questions after and I'll do my very best to answer them. So the university position on COVID-19. UCD remains committed to delivering the best face-to-face teaching and campus experience possible within the public health restrictions that apply for the next academic year. We are continuing to make preparations to welcome all our incoming students in September, and we will include blending online delivery with small group interactions with lectures and access to library and other university facilities within the public health guidelines. For graduate students, the academic calendar for the autumn trimester will commence on Monday, the 21st of September for 12 weeks. This is a fluid situation and we are responding to updates that we are receiving, and we are committed to providing more details from individual schools in terms of delivery of specific modules in different master's programs over the coming weeks. In addition, the university has a dedicated webpage on the UCD site that is updated on a regular basis every week with all relevant COVID-19 information. And I will include that URL in the chat box now. Aoife may be able to pop that up for us, or I will try and get it for you now in a second. And this can be then accessed and you can have a look and check in with that webpage every week. So I'm just going to put that into chat now, see if I can get it out.
Thanks very much, Justine. I have mentioned previously that I am recording this session. So what I will do is it will go live to our YouTube channel, and I'll include that link that Justine is speaking about in the comment section so people can actually have a look at any of the latest updates from the university. Thank you very much, Justine. I'm just going to do a quick Q&A here. So the first question that we have coming in, Brian, I might actually direct this towards you. Students wondering, will doing the MCL, which is Masters in Common Law, allow me to do the FE1s?
So the answer to that is a straight yes. The MCL is one of the approved degrees for the Irish Law Society. And by taking the by completing the MCL, you cover not only the required subjects, but you'll be entitled to any recognition for the FE1. So there's no difficulty there. As regards the King's Inns in Ireland, the position is the same. So by completing the MCL, you're as good as a BCL law graduate, etc. For their purposes, for the entrance exams as well.
Thank you very much, Brian. I have another question coming in here. Do you offer part-time courses? Justine, I might direct that over to yourself.
We need your microphone.
No, I've got you.
I'm just after putting up our law web page there as well.
Oh, thank you very much.
So I hope everyone could see it. Yes, sorry. Yeah, and it's something I probably should have mentioned when I was talking there, part-time and full-time. The MCL is purely full-time at the moment anyway, because there's a lot of information to get in, a lot of law modules to study. But with the LLM and the MSCs, we do offer a part-time version. So basically the part-time is the full-time, but over 2 years. So the way it is, with the full-time, you would have 6 modules plus your dissertation. So normally people would do 3 modules in autumn term, 3 in spring, and a dissertation. With the part-time, you can spread that over 2 years. So you can do, say, 3 modules in 1 year, 3 in the other year, and your dissertation at the end.
Okay, that might actually follow on nicely to a question we have in that says, how many contact hours per week can I expect with the general LLM, and is it realistic to plan to work part-time or even full-time throughout? So perhaps this person might be better with a part-time course.
Yes, yeah, that's it, exactly. And that's a query I get a lot, especially from people who are working. One of the questions they ask me are the lectures, is the part-time at night? And as I said, it is actually the full-time LLM spread over, or master's spread over 2 years. We'll say normally people have been able to work something out with their job. For example, let's say in the autumn term of year 1, you might just do 1 module. We do have a few modules offered at 9 o'clock or maybe at 4 or 5 in the evening. So maybe they could take those, and they probably may have very minimal interference with work. The second semester then, or trimester, they may be doing 2 modules. And again, they could try and maybe get them early in the morning, or some of the modules, they can take 2 in a row maybe, and have the 2 in the one day. They're missing a half day or a day from work, and maybe arrange their hours so they can work it out. So most people, even people who had been on, I couldn't do it during the day. And when you explain that it's not a huge number of contact hours, obviously it's an awful lot of learning in your own time. They've actually, gosh, they've been able to work something out with their employer.
Thanks very much, Justine. Suzanne, I might direct this next question towards you. You were speaking earlier about thesis topics. We have a student wondering, can they actually choose their own topic, or is there a list of assigned topics that they get to pick from?
Well, for the dissertation, the students have the choice to take whatever subject interests them, as long as it's related, of course, to the course content of the LLM in which they are studying. So there is, as I mentioned earlier, the dissertation module actually has dedicated classes on how to choose your research question. That's a very important part of the dissertation, actually narrowing down a topic to a question. So the field is wide in terms of what you can choose to do for your dissertation. So it's a very great opportunity for students to actually take their learning to another level, as Brian said, and to make it very personal to them in terms of what they want to research. So yes, is the answer to that essentially.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Justine, I have another few questions coming in here I might direct towards you. Is there a scholarship available for MCL students?
Yes, there is. Well, we have our bursary, as I said, of €4,000, so that can go to any of the programs. We have a number of them. So quite often an MCL student may get that. Plus then we do offer a 25% fees discount for each of the 2 years on top of that, and that's the MCL scholarship or bursary as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And finally, another one about MCL students. Do they have the same internship and training contract opportunities as those graduating with the BCL or the BBL?
Yeah, sometimes they actually have an advantage over BBL and BCL because, of course, they have their primary degrees. So increasingly, we're finding that recruiters are interested in people with extra strings to their bows, or people who can, bring change, bring a new dimension, etc. So the answer is yes. I guess there will always be competition across the degrees and across the institutions at the very, very tip-top end, because recruiters will always want the very, very best students, but the opportunities are definitely the same. And I would say, again, MCL probably offers, in fact, an additional bonus in that extra string that one might have to one's bow.
Thank you very much, Brian. That was very informative. And just a final question here. For a September start, approximately when do I need to register and pay the first fee installments? Justine, I'm not too sure about fees. I'm sure you'll have more information on that. Sorry.
Normally, the fees are due for the masters. It's 3 installments normally, and obviously, then if it's 2 year, because you're part time, it's sort of 3 installments each year. You know, so what we're finding is people will normally pay a third in September, a third in January, and a third in April. Approximately, you're given the dates. They can have a look at the fees on ucd.ie/fees as well. I just noticed a question in there from an Emma MacDonald there, and she said, she asked, is there a scholarship available to part-time students? The website seems to gear them towards full-time students. I'm registered on a part-time course. Yeah, so Emma, thank you. I think what we'd say there is they are normally geared towards the full-time courses. It's 1 year full-time study, but we do also have other scholarship opportunities. So if you look on our website, ucd.ie, we have Sutherland opportunities for students, and we also have other scholarships available on our main UCD website. So if you could have a look at them as well. But yes, unfortunately, it is mainly geared towards full-time study.
Thanks very much, Justine. Suzanne, I'm going to maybe leave the final word on our Q&A session to yourself. You spoke earlier about the one-on-one meetings that students can have throughout their kind of dissertation process. But can you speak about the advantages that we do have in the Sutherland School of Law with our smaller class sizes for these master's programs?
Well, I suppose one of the great benefits of studying law at UCD is our new dedicated building, which people may already be aware of from our website. It was just built a number of years ago, and it is a top-class, world-class facility now with with a wide range of teaching spaces, from large lecture theatres to small dedicated rooms. Many of the modules that we offer on the are conducted in these seminar rooms where the space is specifically designed for students and staff to engage in open conversation and discussion on issues. So rather than the lecture format, which I suppose many will be familiar with from their undergraduate days, we've specifically designed our classes to be small in size. And the normal run of things will be for students to engage. Somebody was asking about contact hours earlier. While the contact hours may be short, the amount of time that students spend in advance of their classes in learning and engaging with the materials, and then they come into the classroom ready to discuss the various different topics in an open and interactive way. And that's really key, I think, to graduate learning, to moving forward from receiving knowledge to be actively forming and making knowledge oneself. So that type of teaching constructive learning is what we really aim for in the School of Law, and what's most enjoyable, I think, about teaching on the graduate programs.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. I want to thank Suzanne, Brian, and Justine for helping with all the Q&A and for joining me here today to talk about our graduate opportunities in the Sutherland School of Law. I mentioned previously that this session is being recorded, so for those of you who are joining us after the session has been live, the links below will help you find some great resources, and please contact us on lawpostgraduate@ucd.ie if you have any questions. And thank you all very much for joining us today, and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.